Welcome to Life in Full Expression with me, your host, Beth Wolfe. In this show, we will explore, elevate, expand, and learn how to live your best life. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to live your life in full expression or create an expansive vision for your future? Get ready to be energized to fully express yourself, discover your heart's clarity for dynamic direction in life decisions, and develop your unique capabilities so you are delivering your ever-increasing capacities into your world. Join me, Beth Wolfe, and unleash the limitless capabilities of your soul, experiencing amazement, collaboration, fun, and purpose. Life in Full Expression starts now. Welcome, you amazing souls, to another episode of Life in Full Expression. I get to be your host, Beth Wolfe, here with you on a Monday I love the introduction of this, to really energize you. We've got a week ahead of us. It's February. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I am so happy and grateful to be here with you guys today. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to do a show on awareness in abundance. So this is a little bit of let's just kind of give a summary of it, that we're going to explore that we live in an abundant universe and that it is always seeking expansion through you, through me. And what are those desires of moreness that are in you? What are they attempting to seek and express through you? I truly believe that we are here to collaborate, create, consume, but not over consume. And I really admire the younger generations right now. I'm actually moving into, almost ending my 5th decade on this earth. And I love what the younger generations are doing. In a lot of ways, they're saying, I'm going to be aware of my consumption and I don't want to overconsume. And maybe it would be cool to own a tiny home rather than, a 6,000 or 10,000 square foot home. Because I can tell you, I did own a home that was almost 6,000 square feet, and it is a lot to clean, I'm telling you. So coming back to today, we're really here about elevating into living in harmony with abundance, that it is work in the universe right now, right in this space that you are in right now in this. It wants to express through you and as you and for you. Life is not against you. It's not out to get you, even though sometimes we can have phrases that have been taught to us through the common language of our world today. So if you're tuning in with me for the first time, this is Life in Full Expression. It's about 7 dimensions of expression. And today we're going to really tap into the spiritual dimension, which is really about developing something something really greater than yourself, than you're living more than just yourself. It's also going to tap into the intellectual dimension, your ability to think and learn from life experience and be open to new ideas and capacities. So just in a little brief summary. And then I also wanted to bring in the environmental dimension, because really we're looking at abundance everywhere, but what kind of impact are we having on our environment, and what kind of impact is the environment having on us, and how can we be influencers and collaborators with that? So without further ado, let's get into the content of today about saying yes to abundance. And let's start with this question. Would it really be okay with you if you begin living at a much higher level of abundance? Now, without just going, well, yeah, Beth, totally, we're going to dive into what's going on in your thinking and your emotions and some of the patterns that have been programmed into you to maybe not access this abundance. So sometimes we can actually be a people that some people may live 90 years, and then some people may live 1 year 90 times. And you and I, we don't get a choice about whether or not you and I are creating a life. If you keep breathing, you are creating a life. And there is a content to that life. There's a storyline to that life. And there is a form of that life. And the universe is seeking an ever fuller, freer, more expressiveness and freedom for you and through you. And the universe is seeking to express itself because really, who are you? Who am I? You and I may be a son or a daughter, a manifestation of the Most High, the most infinite intelligence. And so the universe is seeking to express its unique wonderness really through you and your unique thumbprint. Every single one of us has extraordinary ideas that download into us. And then what does it take for us to actually ground those ideas so that they actually manifest into the earth, that we're co creating and collaborating this greatness? One of the things that I posted in Facebook and Instagram this week was that there is a divine greatness in each one of us. And in all honesty, the universe, divine intelligence is here to express that in you and through you. But sometimes we might have some thoughts that instead of pulling us by our vision and our dreams, we are actually pushed by discontent, by unsettledness, and at times feeling of, oh, is this all there is? I mean, have you asked yourself that question at times? I know I have. Is this all there is? And I want to introduce as well that being pushed by discontent and unsettledness is really not a bad thing. We live on the earth of polarity, negative and positive. One is not bad, one is not good. They actually serve us both. So by your discontent and your unsettledness, it's kind of a cool thing. It actually gives you an attention to your vision and your dreams and begins that activity of just pulling you by putting that stake in the ground for your vision and your dream. So that really the universe is pulling not just on you and I, but also on every part of itself. And would you be willing to be open that we actually live in a spiral universe? I've definitely seen images of that. And our DNA is also spiral as well. The universe itself is evolving. We've heard from scientists that it's actually expanding. So every tiny, minute part of the universe is feeling the pull of evolution, and you, as a living being, and as a portal through which the universe expresses life and feel that pull. You and I are that portal of expression. And I know that even the name of this show, Life in Full Expression, was completely a download idea that just came in. I was like, oh, that's what we're here for, is to express, but express fully. And express from love and care and collaboration and creation, that we be in a rhythm and a harmony. Even thinking about when we become aware of the laws of life, the laws of being that govern not only this universe, but our being, our life, because success in the experience of well being and full aliveness is not accidental. It isn't a capricious experience. In other words, it's not unpredictable. It isn't just that some people are blessed and everything gets to work out for them. But yet sometimes we have those kind of patterns and thoughts that have been put into us. In fact, everything works according to the laws of the universe for this world. It's not any one than, well, it's not any more different than the law of electricity, that some people are lucky enough to have light in their house, while the house next door to me, may have accessibility to it, but maybe they don't have the wiring. But it doesn't mean that they don't get to have light. They could have the wiring put in and have electricity just like I do. They don't, in other words, they just haven't hooked up to that. So using that as a little bit of an example, people who experience success in life do things a certain way, or they accidentally stumble for a period of time upon those ways. But those who experience an ever increasing, up leveling well being in life have learned the secret of the laws in the universe and how to unlock those, and then practice those in a greater skill throughout their life. was actually listening to a YouTube this morning as I was in my journaling and devotion time. And I was listening to the seven laws of the universe, and he came up with an eighth one. And I was like, well, interesting. I wonder what it is. And it was actually the law of caring, that we deeply care about each other, care about our world. I thought that was so beautiful. He's like, you're probably thinking it's love. And I'm like, yeah, what could be greater than love? So, another form of love is the law of caring. And our world definitely needs more of that right now. So, you listening to that right now, let's ignite that law of caring. So back to this, that this is what life in full expression really is. It's a level of mastery and remind you about the things that you already know. So I want to invite you to discover things, or at least a deeper understanding about things that you know, and to unlock the secrets and the keys to the well-being that the universe is seeking to absolutely open the door for you. So the universe is holding nothing back from us. We hold back because we think in ways that keep us apart from the good that we are seeking. I'm going to ask you a question. I don't want you to give a superficial or quick response to this. I want you to really think about it and really feel about it. So here it is. Would it be okay to you? Would it really be okay to you, for you, if the universe opened the door to you and you began to live at a much higher octave of abundance? Are you willing? Would that be okay with you? Would you be willing to live at a higher, much, much higher octave of abundance? A greater free flow of abundance in every area of your life that's important to you? Would it be okay with you if that happened? Now, your answer to that question will set in motion some things. And if you really give a hearty, wholehearted to that question, that you have sent a signal to the universe and things begin to just happen by you saying yes, by me saying yes. If you're hesitant, like, well, what does that really mean? What do I have to give up? What am I going to have to let go of? What might come in? What is that going to mean to myself, this or that? If you're starting to have some of those questions, then having really to structure and manage the universe means that you will keep a very small experience going on, because your ability to manage the universe is actually quite small. So is mine. But if you and I are simply willing to say, I really desire to live in harmony, and what that means with the abundance of the universe, that you and I are so open. I can recall a time last year after about 3 months of grieving a relationship with my daughters, that I basically said to the universe, I go, okay, that's it. I'm done grieving. I'm all in. Bring it all in, universe. I am here to live. Bring it all in. God, spirit, infinite intelligence, all the gifts and talents that I have. Let's up level them. Let me be a creator and a collaborator in the world. I'm ready to give it all. It really began a shift in my life. I definitely said yes. And I was like, whether my daughters are in my life or not in my life, I'm still going to give it my all. So, one of the ones that I'd like to introduce you today is an amazing practitioner of these laws of the universe that I studied for, a few decades. And Jesus said, I came that you might have life and that you might have it abundantly. I can recall that scripture, learning that when I was in junior high, the book of John, chapter 10, verse 10. And I'm like, I'm here to live an abundant life. That's why I'm here. He came. That's what's going to happen. And honestly, I have felt that way since I was a little girl, even before I heard that scripture. So, really, speaking of a kind of life, that this isn't really necessarily a religious thing that Jesus was talking about. If you consider, I want to invite you into a consideration again that this man was an actual brilliant practitioner of the laws of the universe. He had incredible knowledge and studied them, such that it was so clear that he had a translucent expression of the divine self in human form, that are for centuries we have said that he was divine. And that same divineness is in you and it is in me. And they would say that he must be the only Son of God. Well, this amazing practitioner, Jesus, actually never said that. He said, no, you not that, don't you know that you are God's? No, don't you know that, you not that every one of you can do these same things and greater things still than I? And still we create institutions to keep him apart from us rather than just simply downloading and practicing and implementing the very things that he said are liberating practices for each one of us. So, in this moment, the capacities that we have attributed to others are really latent within every one of us. You're thinking outside of yourself that they have some attribute that you don't have, and that's not true. We all have this incredible divine nature. So, I want to remind you the little metaphor that every acorn could become an oak tree, but not every acorn will become an oak tree, because the conditions of the oak tree-ness to come out of the acornness are not presenced and then sustained over time. So that's what I'm introducing to you, is what does it look like and feel like for us to presence your divineness and sustain it over time. What we are doing in creating a life in full expression is all about that presencing and support for your mind, because and your emotions, because life comes from the thinking and feeling laboratory that we have inside of us. And I want to say and introduce, as we go into this first break, that your mind is like an iceberg. So take a short break, come right back after this, and let's talk a little bit about glaciers and icebergs. I'll be right back. Welcome back, you guys. We're talking about, in the second segment of Life in Full Expression, about training your subconscious mind. And I invited you back because we're going to talk about icebergs and glaciers, how gorgeous they are. So in this segment, we're going to look at how much do you allow your subconscious mind to dictate how much good you will allow. About 7 years ago, I wasn't even aware of this question. I'm like, Willis, what are you talking about? Had no idea. So, giving you a little bit of an outline of this is the subconscious mind in general dictates how much good you and I are going to allow. Like, we have a set point. Our mind is like a glacier. The conscious mind is about 1/3 above water, what we can see. And the subconscious mind is 2/3 below the water, what you can't see, which also could be an iceberg too. So glacier, iceberg, kind of in that arena. And are you and I really willing to have more? So I'm going to talk a little bit about lottery winners and what happens to about 90% of them. But then also, once we are really acquiring more, what are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with that moreness? What does having more actually mean? And is abundance simply mean money? It does, but it doesn't exclude it. And is really money evil, or could it be a channel of good? And we don't have to get caught up in the materiality of things. It just gives us actually more freedom. And then, actually, could we possibly exchange the word abundance for plentitude, a sense of more than enough, a huge amount of gratitude? I know when I work with my clients, and sometimes they might be in a struggle bus. I've definitely stepped on a struggle bus before in my life, and sometimes multiple times. And one of the ways that I help myself get off the struggle bus is to really amp up my appreciation and my gratitude of everything and everyone that is in my life. Whether I feel that it is good, bad, or indifferent, I will even ask, is there a seed of goodness here? Because I want it. So let's talk a little bit about the mind is like an iceberg. Um, when you look at an iceberg and you're on a ship, you're somewhere out in the ocean and say, hey, let's go to the Mindendal Glacier for a minute. Now, that's one of the biggest glaciers that I'm aware of. It's near Juneau, Alaska. And as I looked up a little bit more about it, it's about 12 to 13 miles long. So imagine for a moment that you and I are taking a cruise ship. We are having a seminar together and we're looking out at the beautiful sunny day, and we are in the Mendenhall with a big, beautiful glacier in front of us. Can you see that? Just imagine that. See the beautiful blue glacier ice, just amazing. And not only its beauty, but its incredible size. We are only seeing actually about 1/3 of the glacier. And the way a glacier works is for it to float in, down the narrow canyons, and then once it meets the ocean, actually it's floating in that ocean, but about 2/3 of it is actually submerged. So your conscious mind is a bit like the glacier, and what you are aware of, what you are thinking with, what you are conscious of is only 1/3 of your thought or even less. The next largest section, which is called the subconscious mind, which is the storehouse of the patterns of thinking and the belief systems that you and I have. So those are all moving all the time. There's a certain set point that you and I have of our belief system that's just running automatically underneath the waterline edge. And it's really a belief system about how much abundance you and I can have. And so, if you want to know what your set point is, if I want to know what my set point is, we can just take a look at our life. And you have a tendency to create a certain life, a certain pattern of how much love you allow, how much financial supply you allow, how much happiness you allow, how much health you allow. I found it really interesting after I completed a 25-year marriage and I was at a set point of a certain financial amount of money per year. And as I left that marriage and completed it, I was below $10,000 a year. But within a short 3-year span of time, opportunities came to me. And within 3 years, I was right up at that same level of income that I was at when I was married. And, my mind was like, oh my gosh, it's going to take decades. Yet I had a set point of financial abundance and I just rose right back up to it. So it was just really interesting that that's where I feel. And so now it's like, what is a set point that I could make that could be even moreness? I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So, if you lay out what you consider to be the elements of abundance in really whatever degree, what you want to allow in your life as regards of health, well-being, happiness, joy, peace, career fulfillment. Um, Again, one of my number one core values is fun. How much fun am I going to allow in my life abundantly? Abundance is not just about money, which I mentioned in the introduction of this segment, but it doesn't exclude it either. Money is just another form of energy. Anywhere along the line of your upbringing, you were taught that money is you could have been taught this, not everybody, but you could have been taught that possibly money might be the root of all evil, which many people, as you know, in our Western culture, it was. And here's the good news about your unconscious mind: you don't have to go searching for old beliefs. I found this really freeing when my mentor told me this, that, I don't have to hunt those things down inside of me. So she gave me this illustration. So imagine this: if you have a bucket that's got muddy water in the bottom of it, you don't have to try to get the mud out. You just start pouring in clear water. The only thing you're responsible to do is to pour in clean water. If you keep pouring in clean water and pouring in more and more clear water, it will displace the muddy water. You don't have to go hunting for the mud. Just pour in clean water. I'm like, oh my goodness, that sounds not only wonderful, but fun at the same time. And that's what you're doing right now by listening to this very podcast. You're getting together with me and other like minded people, and we're pouring in clear water today, right now, in this moment. We want to remind ourselves what we know deep down, and is that we can take these same truths and work with them in a deeper and deeper way, down into the layers with finer and finer elements of our own thinking. So, what clear, crystal clear thinking and feelings could you pour into you today? That's a great question that you could even ask yourself as you journal each morning, as you go off to sleep. What might be those clear crystal thoughts that would really take you to a higher octave of abundance? So, when you and I think about the elements of abundance, you and I have our own set point. Each one of us does. Just we even talk about that. I've come from 40 years of sports medicine, nutrition, wellness, and our we talk about that in the health sector that our bodies have a certain set point, and so allowing ourselves to move through that set point. I have a current client right now that she has a gold medal team around her with an amazing herbalist and acupuncturist. She's got a exercise health coach, and she's got me with our heart, mind, and soul. And together, we are all helping her give her a new set point for her weight. And up to this point, I think she's released close to 90 to 100 pounds. She's just rocking it as she's creating a new set point. And one of the things that she shared with me as we've been working together is she said, I've lost 100 pounds before, even more, and then I've gained it all back. But this time I know I'm not. This time, in essence, she has changed her set point in her heart, mind, and soul. She knows that she is living a higher octave of abundance. So proud of her. Just shout out to her. So, we might actually think about these elements in the set point, which is the amount of good that we would allow to come and really stabilize or become part of our experience. It doesn't mean we might not have a momentary blip. Like I mentioned, sometimes I stand in line to get on the struggle bus. But we might get an inheritance. We might get someone that takes us out to dinner as a surprise gift, and something comes into our life. But unless we have built a consciousness that can hold that experience and make it ours, we will find some way to get rid of it. It's just like, I built a house years ago as a general contractor for a house. And if we didn't build the frames for the footings, when the concrete truck came, there wouldn't be anything for them to pour the concrete in and hold the frame of that in order for it to dry and be a foundation. So that's the same thing with our chalice of our body and mind. And not just the mind, but our entire body is to be holding this. So, do you know that there's some research done a long time ago that proves that over 90% of all lottery winners within 3 years, their income was before they won the lottery? Even those who had won millions and millions of dollars, 90% of them, they just go back to their same set point of income. It was like being on a money craze. Their life couldn't allow themselves to be wealthy people because they were still poor people, only they had a lot of money. They had this poverty thinking. Um, and so they actually got rid of it unconsciously as fast as they could. They gave it away. They bought things that lost value. They just went on some kind of money craze. So the thing that we think that we would say the most, oh, If I could just win the lottery. Well, winning the lottery is really about learning what it takes to build a consciousness that attracts and accepts and receives and can stabilize that abundance. Did you hear that? It's about building a consciousness. You get to build it that attracts, accepts, receives, and stabilizes that abundance. There's a word that I'd like to begin to ponder and consider, and that word is abundance. And first of all, I'd like to say that in the question, not to just casually say, well, of course, I would like to have more abundance in my life, Beth. In that question, ask yourself again and again, am I really willing to live from abundance? My client with a greater level of health, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually, she was ready. She was really ready and willing and welcoming. I'm going to talk about that too, to have a greater level of abundance in her health. Are you willing to have it? Whatever question comes, stay in that question. What if, will it will really helps that it's like a magnet into any belief system you have that is your unconscious mind that says your old patterns are going to bubble up as you ask these questions. And one of them that might bubble up is go, oh, that money is the root of all evil. Well, the truth is that the scripture never said that money is the root of all evil. It didn't say that. It said that the love of money is the root of all evil. And what really that means is believing that money is our God, like you're worshiping it instead of money being a channel of our infinite divine nature or the universe, or that I've heard from other mentors that we are really chalices of energy. Talk about looking for the chalice in ancient wisdom. Our bodies are that. We're that very funnel of goodness. So money is just a channel of our good. It's an expression of our connection to our infinite source, infinite intelligence. So as you continue to stay in the question, am I really willing to live from abundance? Now, there's a difference between am I willing to live to abundance or for abundance? Are you willing to live from it? Am I willing to move into a new octave of abundance and experience that? Even though some part of you will say, well, of course I am. I'd like to invite you to begin to notice perhaps patterns from your upbringing. Like money doesn't grow on trees and only hard work gets you there. I've heard someone say, when you're speaking about growth and what they built, and then just very casually they throw in a line, well, of course, without pain, there is no real growth. She was not even a bit aware that she had said something that was totally, possibly erroneous, but it was a belief system. So she was operating from a conditional mind that kept a limitation in place without her even being aware. And so one of the things to work with is paying attention to what you're saying and then questioning. Like, pay attention to what's going on in those thoughts. Ask yourself this: that may have been what I believed, but is it really true? Great question to keep. So, as you start asking yourself the question, not just once, but repeatedly, this is something that my mentors have taught me. Stay with the question, Beth. Stay with the question till the answer comes. It might be days, it might be weeks, it might be months. Am I willing to live from abundance? Am I willing to live at a higher octave of abundance in a life of full expression, physically, socially, occupationally, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, environmentally? The word I want you to explore now is the word plentitude. Many of us have an idea of about abundance, but let me tell you a little bit about plentitude, um, which is a sense of more. Plentitude has a strong vibration. That is, things are so good that there's such a huge appreciation and gratitude. We tend to want to put our money in places where it appreciates. Well, our life currency appreciates gratitude. Let me just share that one more time. Our life currency appreciates gratitude. So, plentitude carries with it a very strong vibration of gratitude, appreciation, and the measurement of it is ever expanding. That not only are the dollars available at the moment they are needed, but in full flow to do whatever one would seek to be or do at the moment one seeks to be or do it. I've seen this time and time again as I not only before I completed my marriage, there was a time when um, my previous partner, husband, we wanted to build a house. And so I looked and looked for plans that we would love, and we found them one that we loved. And so we just kept that picture of that plan where we could see it often. And I didn't say that, gosh, it'd be great someday to build that house. I looked at that house print and I said, I am building it. It is going to happen. We are going to be in that house. And I just kept looking at that and seeing that. I would imagine us being in it as if it had already happened. And we inherited a fair amount of money and we built that house for cash. I never in a million years did I think it would come that way, but it did as I held the image and the frame for it. So, would it be okay with you if life were an ever upward expanding spiral of expanse of abundance and goodness? Would that be okay with you? Would it be okay with you if that were really, if that's really how the universe works? That life is for you, not against you. And the more that you and I harmonize with our true divine nature, that we are co creators, co collaborators, the more that is our direct experience. I'm going to ask you, would it be okay? Would you be willing to stay with that question? So I would suggest to you today and invite you. It's a great thing to say to your subconscious mind to ask, invite it, give it an experiment rather than kicking it in the ass. No one likes that. So, that's a beautiful um, method that my mentors taught me was to invite myself into an experiment. So, inviting you into experiment to recognize that there are some thought patterns that you and I have that keep us from experiencing this abundance and plenitude. So, one of those is to begin to discover, discern, and then download and write down our thoughts about abundance. So, that's one thing that you could do today. Write down the thoughts you have about abundance. It may be a full sheet of paper, it may not be a full sheet of paper. Another way to do it is just to use your iPhone and, put on the voice recorder and do that. But what is it that we tend to think about abundance? Were we raised with the idea that to have a lot is possibly selfish, that there is something more spiritual or pious in being in poverty, in not having enough, that our having a lot means that somebody else doesn't have something? Now, I'm not talking about this over ostentatious overconsumption, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit that are you thinking that there's a lack in the universe? And I would just say to you that having a lot means this amazing thing that you and I could do a lot more good if you and I are willing to let ourselves have more. And as we close this segment down, I want to just tell you that one of my clients, who's a general contractor, we've been working 4 years together on his visions and dreams. And he recently did a quantum leap and bought this dilapidated property on the water in the Pacific Northwest, totally remodeled it into an extraordinary Airbnb. And it is going to be a place of giving more to families. It's got a game room. It's 2 stories high. It's got this expansive view of Mount Baker almost all the way to Seattle and the North Cascades. It's absolutely beautiful. So by him taking a quantum leap and doing more and having more, then he is providing that for people to enjoy. And also, he also gave a lot to the community in hiring subcontractors and part of the men and women that work for him. So that's what it looks like about bringing more good. All right, well, stay tuned. In this last segment coming up on Life in Full Expression, I'm going to teach you some ways on making this a kind of abundance and plenitude welcome in your life. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. Welcome back, you amazing souls, to learning more about the divineness that's already in you. Today, we're talking about on Life in Full Expression, awareness in abundance. It's a super cool. And in this last segment, I'm going to talk about how do you even make this new higher octave of abundance and plenitude welcome in your life. So we're going to look at a scripture that I learned in the Bible that perplexed me for decades, and it's the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And I'm like, that doesn't really sound very wonderful to me. I'm going to talk a little bit about that on the quantum physics of that statement. We're also going to look at, rather than wanting things, we're going to practice making them welcome. When you want something, you are also in a space of not having it. We're going to be talking about vibration and frequency. And then when you make things welcome, there's a feeling of expectancy. Like, this is going to happen. It's coming. Just like I talked about in the last episode, that I found a house plan, and it wasn't that, oh, well, someday I'd like to build that house. No, it was like, no, I am building that house. And I did. It is gorgeous. It actually went into a magazine too. It was so fun. I don't know where that magazine is now anymore. So I don't even live there anymore. I'm on my way to building my next amazing villa. So the other part of this is abundance is just as much about receiving as it is about giving. You can't breathe out continually. You must breathe in as well. And men, ladies, women, if you're listening to this, it's not always about giving. It is a law of circulation that we are giving and receiving, giving and receiving. So let's look at, what does it look like to make abundance welcome? So activating abundance, it's the cycle of abundance is something that we actually begin to activate. So imagine right now in this place, this podcast, whether you're listening to it live or recorded, you are being activated. It has to do also with giving in your community. Look at your own practice of giving. And I'm not just talking about financially. You've got amazing gifts, talents, divine nature, abilities. Your thumbprint is unique. What might you be giving into your community? So, in order to activate this kind of abundance, your own readiness, your own willingness, your own receptivity is very, very important for you. Have an image of seeing, I grew up in athletics. Imagine an athlete, whether you're soccer, baseball, football, just imagine any athlete has a state of readiness. Like, whether they're starting to play for football or soccer or baseball, it's always a state of readiness. If you're a swimmer, you're on the blocks and you're ready to jump into the water. So asking yourself, yes, I'm, saying, I'm ready now, Beth. I'm willing now, and I am receptive to this. To start with that question and that practice, it is a practice to live in plenitude, that life. Jesus was speaking from the experience of that life. He was saying that there is a way of being that provides an access point or an avenue through which every one of us can have this life. And I want to emphasize that it was a state of beingness, a state of awareness. In fact, it's what we came here for, to this earth. And every one of us is wired to not only desire this life, but we also deserve this life. But we are supposed to have that life so that we can do the good we came here to do and be. We are here to do good and be good. And there's no piousness in playing small and not doing or being everything that you can and came to be. In my personal wellness class, I play a video that is by Jim Rohn, and it's about 4 questions about why not? Why not be this? Why not give your all? Why not study this? And I love to see the responses from the students of opening up to being willing for a greater level of abundance as they go through this course. So, when you begin to consider what are your thoughts about abundance, remember that question. Am I willing to live from abundance? Are you willing to live from abundance? Am I willing to live a life that is ever increasing, upward spiral of abundance? And then what that will do is surface thought like, well, yeah, but what about it's going to bubble up some mud, you guys, because you're pouring in this divine nature of what you truly are. So don't don't be frustrated with yourself and quit when you come up with ideas of, but what about this? But what about that? Just go, hey, mind, we're clearing it out. It's okay. Come on in here. Like um, Dr. Sue Morter talks about, just bring your thought in and just hug it. Hug your mind, give it some love. So you can't just see them on TV and imagine people who had a lot of stuff, but they weren't very nice people. How many of us have kind of been fed that? Um, so you may have developed a belief that you don't want to be caught up in materiality. Like, you want to be a minimalist. And living in abundance has nothing to do with acquiring a lot of stuff, you guys. It has to do with freedom and flow in the material realm of this 3D world that we're in. You can choose to live anything that you want to, and you get to choose how you express your life. But what spirit, infinite intelligence, universe is seeking is that you don't limit that based on ideas of lack or scarcity, because that also puts the damper on it and shuts down all of the creative potential that is in you, to give your gift to all of us. And you came, I came, and the universe created you and created me. And so there's some divine ray here, the universal intelligence and creativity that is seeking expression. For this, you came. You came to express. So you are doing no one any good to play small. You're doing no one of us any good for you to come out of beliefs and keep fostering a little life in any way. And I know it would be okay with one of my clients. I was talking about the general contractor, and when he came to me, he's like, "There's like this little Wayne on my shoulder," and I'm like, "Well, let's unveil Master Wayne." And as you know, he has created this beautiful up and coming Airbnb, that I'm so proud of him as he has built the container of plenitude and abundance of what it looks like for him. So, if you begin to spend a little time each week with the questions that I've provided so far in this podcast, and then consider them, it puts your thinking in a different frequency. When your thinking moves to a frequency, you start to see things differently. And in front of you are opportunities that you can't see right now. All the opportunities you can see are the ones that are in harmony with the vibration of the thinking you are doing at this time in this moment. So once you and I shift the vibration of our thinking through the practicing of these questions, a higher pattern of all of a sudden it looks like out of the blue, because it comes out of our consciousness. All these new opportunities are there. Well, really, you guys, they were available all the time anyway. But you and I just weren't there because we were at a different frequency. So, just like now, you and I could turn on our radio and we could tune into a number of different channels, or if you want to go on Spotify or iTunes, which are music opportunities, and we could listen to all different kinds of genres. It's all right there, but it does require for us to get in the vibration, put in the right word in order for us to be able to listen to that genre and be in harmony with it. So, what are your thoughts about abundance? That's what this is asking you to consider and to make conscious. You don't even have to think, oh, that came here by my mother or whatever, all the dirty thoughts. What is the story? And I'm talking about the mud. What is the story that you're telling yourself about abundance? What is it that you believe? And I have so much more content in this episode, and we're coming in for a landing, so I'm going to bring it in with these questions as I'm getting signals here. But I just want you to know that there's a set point that you can disrupt in a good way in this universe, and that for your own conscious thinking. And so when you're done with this podcast, take time to pay attention to your own set point and how it plays out in your 7 dimensions of life of full expression. Pay attention to and allow any of your unconscious beliefs and attitudes that are in the unconscious below the surface. And so that you can take a look at them and decide whether or not they really are true, or whether or not they are just an old belief and need to be replaced by a statement of truth that you begin to embed. So just like clear water in a muddy bucket, we are starting to embed your true divine nature of abundance and plenitude. Thanks so much for tuning in to Life in Full Expression. I invite you guys to play in the crystal clear waters of your divine nature. And if you need more about that, you can always find me on www.bethwolfe.com. Take care, you guys, and know that you are divine. I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Life in Full Expression with me, Beth Wolfe. Tune in each Monday at noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Be your most elevated self and pursue a path of fulfillment, clarity, expansion, fun, and live in your best life. If you would like to discover the 7 dimensions of your life blueprint of expression, to fully express yourself, reveal your heart's clarity for dynamic direction, and activate your unique capability, visit BethWolfe.com. That's Beth, WOLFE.com.